coming to you live from our Bentonville home office. Uh, this is Junk Brands, and we're so excited to have you guys join us. So this week we put out our artist series, our first series that we're doing with our artists. We're going to be collaborating with our artists throughout the year and bringing you some very interesting designs that are have great stories behind them. So this week we worked with a couple of artists. We worked with Dacia and Adrian, and Dacia is actually going to join us and talk a little bit about her artistic background and why she landed on this design, and tell us just a little bit more about herself. So we'll work and see if we can get Dacia to join us right here and kind of have a quick interview with her. Send her an invite now. So again, what we've done is we're partnering with artists, various. Hey, Dacia, there you are.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited that you partnered with us on our first artist series. Felt like it was a great time to launch it, especially with Black History Month and getting to celebrate our Black artists that we partnered with you and Adrian. And so just so excited that we could do this. You know, for me personally, I've been telling people around the office, this is one of the things I'm probably most proud of, is just being able to share your stories and give you a platform to be able to do it. And so I really appreciate you working with us. And thanks for taking the time to join us.
No, thanks for having me. This opportunity has been amazing, and I'm just so honored. One, that you all took it upon yourselves to honor Black artists and to tell Black stories, which is so important. And also to have the ability to share my words with other people. And then just being here today to talk about art. So it's really exciting. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Hopefully you're staying warm down there. I don't know if it's gotten as cold as it is here, but man, it's cold.
Oh, yes, I know. And it's supposed to, it's dropping everywhere across
I
the
know.
country. And I'm like, what has happened? Hopefully this is the last freeze, but
I hope so. I'm ready for warm weather for
I
sure.
know.
Well, so to kick it off, I'd love for you, Dacia, to just kind of give us some background on yourself, you know, where you came from, what's your main artistic focus, kind of how you got into art.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Dacia Idom. I'm a photographer, fine art artist, and a poet. And I'm also a business owner, so I have a photography business, and then I'm the founder of Stand with Purpose. So one of my motivations with art is to tell stories and to be able to have conversations, and do so in a way that can involve people from different backgrounds, while also sharing, your personal passions and the purpose. So that's a little bit about what I believe art represents. But for the longest, I thought that I was going to be an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
That was my like path all the way through school. I thought that I would be a teacher, and then my senior year of high school, I took a darkroom and film class, and that kind of really shaped my view of being able to tell stories and doing so through art. But as I've gone through like old photos and documents, I have a picture. I was really young and I have a camera in my hand. And also like elementary, middle school, high school, I go back and I was documenting like my life, the people around me's life. So it was like since I can remember, I've been documenting. So that's really interesting to take a look back and see that there's certain things that are naturally in us, that we can tap into.
Yeah, for sure. So what really helped you make the transition? And I mean, it seems like a big difference between being an elementary school teacher and then deciding to go into art. Like what made you want to make that move, and how have you been able to do that?
Yeah, so once I was a senior in high school, kind of when I made the decision that, okay, I'm going to pursue art, and I have a super supportive family. So when I, took that decision to my parents, like, hey, I'm going to school for art, they were very supportive and said, hey, this role might be a little more difficult than, a more traditional, studying a more traditional curriculum, but they supported me in that. And making an impact, I think, has always been at the core, and serving others has always been at the core of everything that I've wanted to do. So, whether that was in a classroom teaching students, or I've also worked as a photojournalist at a newspaper, also creating art around storytelling and different issues. It all is at the heart about making an impact and using our lives for positive good. And also being able to have conversations around you that are important and are filled with purpose. A huge thing is purpose and passion, and truth are huge core elements to me in my life in terms of what we do and how we live.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, life tends to be a journey and takes us in different directions. And so I think about, it's probably very similar with your artistic style and just what you've done with the different mediums. Can you talk a little bit about how, your art and your passions and your voice has changed sort of over that time that you've been an artist?
Definitely. So, a little bit about, I think when I first started making art, it was a lot of external sources. Like I was getting a lot of influence from external things. And as I've matured in my artistic journey, I've done a lot of more internal processing in terms of writing, brainstorming, trying to figure out what my voice is and what do I want to say. And of course, you have inspirations around you and your environment and your people and all of those things. But I've just learned to tap more into what's within, and what that sound is, what that voice is, and then sharing that with the world versus, the other way around.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, and I think you've made an incredible impact, with your artwork. I know here at Junk, you've made an incredible impact on us, and being able to share your spoken word and your poetry, and being able to use that on our medium was just such a special honor for us, and so we're so thankful for that. So, what is, if you could get, your message out there, what would be the most important message that you could reach people with right now?
I think one of the most important things with the headband, the words are speak truth, right? And that
Yeah.
you're healing out loud and that your pain is valid. And I think the most important thing I want people to know is that they are seen and they're important, and we all have a voice, and we are all worthy of being heard and people listening and us being able to share freely. Of course, respectfully, and of course, in a healthy environment. But the fact that we're here for a reason and we're here for a purpose, and that is everyone. And I want people to own that and know that and feel secure in that. And then to also share our gifts. Me being a writer, me being an artist, from a very young age, I was encouraged that what I had to say mattered and that I could create change and I could move into action and go beyond conversations and actually solve problems and present solutions to the world that can help solve some of the issues that I see. So I would say that to everyone, that we all have gifts that we can put out into the world and help other people and strengthen our communities. And I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, so I also feel that God has gifted each of us with a purpose. And we should just surround ourselves with people who also believe that, and people who encourage that, because that's your inner circle. And
Yes.
during my conversation with Junk Brands, I talked a little bit about that, is that my family is my inner circle, and my family and friends, I'm a girlfriend, I'm an auntie, I'm a sister. So all of those people are my inner circle,
Hmm.
which gives me strength to go out into a world that may not be as kind, that may
Yeah.
not be as friendly. But to have that core is so crucial. And it's a lot of where my inspiration comes from.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, like, are there particular moments or, times that you can think of where it might have been either difficult or challenging, and someone really brought you that encouragement and inspired you to keep going?
Yes, I would. I often go back to my childhood because I feel like my childhood shaped me.
Hmm.
So I remember one time when it was actually Black History Month, and I went to predominantly white schools, and we really weren't doing anything to celebrate Black history. And so I went home and I talked about that. And I was encouraged to, like, okay, well, you see this issue, go pitch something, go present something. And so I was able to talk to our administration and pitch to them announcing Black History facts over the announcements. And then we were able to go ahead and implement that process. Also, when I think that a lot of struggles and difficulties that we experience in life are huge inspirations. So we lived in Louisiana, which was away from most of our family. My parents are originally from Cleveland, Ohio. And I think that that built a certain strength in us, in my siblings, and us being able to kind of really like look out for each other
Hmm.
and build that community, and also know that there are other people in your life who may not be blood family, um, but they are people who are willing to come in and be like that and be us of support to you and help you accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life. So I think that's a big lesson too, because sometimes we may not feel supported from certain areas or certain people who we have that expectation from, but God may send you people who you don't even expect, and they can be that inspiration to you. So I think my childhood is a core part of who I am and the way that I was raised, and my parents instilling certain things in us that we had a very structured upbringing, but it was also limitless in the same way, as far as, hey, these are the things we expect from you, but also if you put your mind to anything, then you can go out and do that. And that support was behind us too, to like, when you go out and do it, we're going to support you in doing it. As long as you're doing things that are right, as long as you're doing things that strengthen the core of what we believe, and are of benefit to your community.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, like, to me, that's pretty incredible that you were able to do that. Go in and pitch it to the administration. Like, what did you see as the outcome from that? Like, what happened after that? Did you see other people impacted? Like, what did
Yeah,
it?
well, yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the things that I learned from that is that when you see problems, it's easy to just comment on the problem and say,
Yeah.
hey, we aren't doing this thing. This over here is messed up. They don't hear us. They don't allow us to speak. But I think one of the things my parents was teaching us, that, okay, you come and complain, but what are you going to do about
Hmm.
it? What is your solution to this problem? How are you going to be involved in doing something about it? And
Hmm.
I think that that is a core lesson in a lot of what I've learned, is like, you see the problem, that's great. We can sit here and talk about the problem, that's great too. But what are you doing? What actions? And I love action steps, like, what are the action steps to solve this problem, or at least try?
Yeah.
Because the other lesson could have been, what if they would have said no? That would have been a lesson too, because failure and no's are just as important as yeses, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because we learn a lot from failure too. And one of the things that I struggle with, I used to really struggle with it, is perfectionism. And I think the sooner we teach people about failure and how important and necessary it is, then I think we're more prone to accept it and see the good in it, to say, hey, that was one no, but somewhere out there is a yes. And even if I experienced 10 no's, at least I went and tried to do something about it. And I tried to present a solution, even if it was a no at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, at a young age, we tend to be more exploratory and try things, and kids are like little experimenters and they're failing all the time, but they're learning. I think it's so important that we keep that, that drive to continue to learn, even though it may be hard at times and we fail at certain things. Are there any specific times you can think of that you did run into, some roadblocks or thought, oh, I may have failed at this, but then learned and been able to turn that into a positive?
Oh, definitely. I think as an artist, you fail all the time, especially creating work that you might think resonates, but then
Yeah.
you might put it out and like the feedback, and not necessarily, not saying that you base everything off of feedback, but that maybe you just thought it would be seen a different way or interpreted a different way, or even the idea that you were trying to get across was not understood.
Hmm.
So one of the things we used to talk about in art school, our professors all the time used to say, put work out, make work, make work, make work. And the reason why they tell you that is because it might take a while to get to what you want. So it's also like that. It's not just saying you need to make work, but you're making work to see what resonates, and you're also making work because the more work you make, the stronger you get.
Yeah.
And even applying, like if I submit a submission to a art show, um, there are times that I got into art shows, and there are times where I did not get into art shows. There were times, I think too, that like when you are going after an opportunity to be featured in a book, to be all these things, you fill out the application, and then that no definitely feels like a failure. But the idea is to do more and be out there more, and just more interactions, more opportunities. You're bound to eventually have a door opened, because if you
Yeah.
stay at something long enough, I believe that you will succeed in some fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, the people that have been most impactful in my life and kind of what I've seen is do exactly what you say. They keep going, and just keep showing up every day. And I'm so happy that you continue to do that, so you could have uh, your art, your voice heard. And I'm so happy that we were able to partner with you on it. Again, I am one of the most proud moments, like just being able to work with you and get your word out there. And so with that, like, what would you tell people that you most wanted to say right now? We have a decent sized audience. Like, what would you leave them with, and what would you want them to know or take away from anything that you could say?
Yeah, and I want to respond and just say thank you, because I'm also mutually honored to even be a part of this. And even the process of creating the headband, having the conversation with the staff, working through the design process, it was all a wonderful process. And I think that that collaboration has been so important. And I just want to thank you all too for the opportunity. But what I say is, I say that we need to stand tall and keep our head held high, in terms of who we are as people, and in terms of community, and in terms of knowing that, again, we're here for a reason. And even though we all have individual lives, I strongly believe in community, and the fact that we all have something to offer. And then even more important than that, we have something to bring to the table. And I think that sometimes as a Black woman, I often feel that sometimes there's a lot of having to explain and defend and fight for things that necessarily shouldn't always be a fight. But nevertheless, I do feel that there is a purpose that we all have, and we're here for a reason, and to keep going after it. And then also, I think the other part that I would say is everything isn't easy. Um, and I think a lot of the journeys that I've taken, it's taken time and it's taken a lot of effort, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth it. So I think the staying the course is so important, because if you really believe something, even if you get knocked down, even if people aren't supporting you necessarily, or if you're discouraged in the moment, I say keep going, and know that staying the course, staying focused, being around the right people, continuously learning is another thing, is we all have something to learn.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Dacia. Thanks so much for working with us. Thanks for coming on and chatting with you, chatting with us, and I really enjoyed it, and just can't wait to see what you do and follow you in your career.
Mark, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And again, thank you all for sharing during Black History Month, Black artists. Adrian's headband is also amazing. I'm so
Yeah,
excited for his headband as well. So thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
absolutely. All right, we'll talk soon, Dacia. Thanks so much.
Alrighty. Thank
All right,
you.
have a great
Bye
weekend.
bye.
Bye. Hi, guys. We had a great time chatting with Dacia. We're so thankful that she came on and joined us.